And welcome everybody to episode 2 of Off the Rails podcast. I'm your host, RJ Brooks, joined here with Keith Ligon. Keith, how are you doing?
Doing good.
All right, and Keith, you kind of want to go over the topics of today's podcast real quick. Not a lot of news right now, but a few interesting topics we want to talk about, and a little 30-minute podcast segment. But Keith, you want to kind of go over the topics real quick?
Yeah, so first one we talked about, I think on the last episode, the BYU quarterback, he wasn't allowed to enter the transfer portal officially because of what he had done with violating the school's code, but he basically entered kind of like a free agency essentially for college football. And basically today he committed to, or I think it was today. Yeah, it was today he committed to Tulane. So just wanted to talk about, just wanted to mention that right quick because we did talk about him last episode, and he's been a guy I've been following for the past 2 years. So
yeah, I mean,
to see how Tulane fares with that quarterback.
Absolutely. And look, here's the thing, Tulane, they're not a bad program at all, and I'm a big fan of Jake as well. I think he's a great quarterback. I think he can do a lot of good things. Last year you saw a little bit of him too. Great player. I'm very interested to see how it pans out for him at Tulane. Like I said, Tulane's had a few good seasons here and there, and so I kind of want to talk about a little bit why he had to transfer. Obviously, not go into complete detail about it, but if you would refresh my memory, why he had to transfer.
So essentially, he goes to BYU. It's a Christian, I believe they're I'll have to look it up.
Yeah,
again.
so I believe BYU, I think they're Mormons, I believe.
They are.
I'm pretty sure. If you want to look that up, though, real quick.
I am fact checking that. I just don't want to be wrong.
I do believe they are Mormons.
Yep, they are Mormons, and so, by that, their school's going to have, obviously, regulations. A lot of schools like that will have certain types of rules and a code and whatever you got to abide by. Jake Retzlaff, he broke that code, and so he was suspended from the team for, I think, 7 games, and obviously, even though it's his junior season, you don't want to sit out 7 games and come back, risk the team being, not want to risk any of that. So he decided to, and again, because he had broken the code, couldn't exactly enter the transfer portal per se, but basically went into a state of, like I said, essentially free agency, and then ended up committing.
Yeah, and I kind of want to talk about a little bit about that code. Yeah, I really do think it's a little unfair for Jake. I get it; they have codes and everything, but and I don't want to go into detail about what he did, but I just think it's a little unfair. Wasn't anything bad, but I do agree. I mean, look, BYU, they have codes like that, and if you break the code, this is what happens. You get punished. And he knew what he was doing, and he knew there was going to be consequences if he got caught. I just think it was a little unfair, but, now he's at Tulane. He's at, maybe a little bit of a downgrade, obviously, but he's got a lot of talent. Tulane's not a bad program at all, and they don't have a bad football program.
I mean, yeah, a lot of people don't know they were pretty close to making a case for the college football playoff last year. A lot of people don't know that, but they were pretty competitive in their conference.
Absolutely.
Pretty close to pulling something off last year. They had a few kind of unlucky losses, some bad losses that kind of kicked them out a little early on, but yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how Tulane fares for sure.
Oh, absolutely. So let's kind of talk about recent news. Keith, I sent you the picture of it. It was Ole Miss a freshman that sadly got into a little shooting accident and passed away, I believe, it was 2 days ago, so that would have been Sunday. Very, very sad news. Prayers go out to him and his family. It's really sad to see this in college football for any case, I mean, and also a freshman just starting out his college career. So I just want to say, rest in peace to him, and just prayers to his family for that. You really hate to see that in college football for
Yeah,
sure.
you do. Like you said, especially a freshman. Yeah, prayers out to his
And I
family,
can't
I
quite
guess.
remember his name. Just
Corey Adams.
Corey Adams. That's correct. But yes, but again, just prayers to the Ole Miss community and his family, and just everybody on that loss for the Ole Miss community. But it's a sad thing. It really is. Man, any shooting, obviously, it's just a horrible thing. And but I didn't know much. I didn't know much about him though because he was a freshman. I don't really pay attention a whole lot to Ole Miss, but I did hear he
Right.
was a pretty talented young man too. So, but anyways, one thing I really want to talk about. And this is really the only news we can really find. Steelers have added a throwback jersey to their locker room, and me and Keith, we're kind of talking about it. We didn't really like the design, to put it as nicely
I
as
mean,
possible, but
yeah, I feel like at this point, their uniforms.
and we are back. Sorry, we got cut off there, but yeah, Keith. So as we were talking about the Steelers jersey, they're adding a new one to the locker room, throwback jersey, and I think he sent you a picture of that. But like we were kind of talking about off the podcast, it's not bad. It's really not. Kind of what you said. It looks like a baseball jersey, kind of. But definitely a lot better than the little bumblebee design that they had,
Right.
years ago.
No, I
Whenever
don't
they,
think I don't know of a single person inside or outside of Pittsburgh that like genuinely was like, oh yeah,
yeah,
that's
that
a
was a
sick
pretty,
uniform combo.
pretty bad design that they had. Yeah, I definitely was never a fan of that one. But yeah, the new one they got, it's not that bad. It's really not.
No, I mean definitely not compared to the Bumblebee, but like still, I mean,
Absolutely.
at this point, whoever's designing the Steelers jersey has got to be like a kind of purposeful thing at this point because
Yeah.
it's got to be like just part of the look, I guess, at this point.
Absolutely. Well, and so, I mean, hey, why not? If you're a Steeler fan, you're like, all right, they add a new jersey to it, and it's not that bad. So, yeah, it's got something a little, something going for him a little bit. But so yeah, so Keith, I kind of want to talk about moving on from the Steelers jersey, but I want to talk about Thunder. Possibly, I don't know if it's 100%. You might know, but they're looking to uh
I
build a
believe it
new
is. I can fact
arena.
check it again. I believe we are like there. This is a finalized like new arena plan, and it's like
And
a
I will
plan
say,
to make
I
like a
saw,
whole park dedicated to the
yeah,
Thunder. I believe in
I
OKC.
saw a
So
picture of what it would look like, and I gotta say, that thing
right,
looks absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna be honest.
it does. It looks it it's gonna make it's gonna make the city and that part of the area look a lot. It's gonna look cool for sure
I
for the city
agree.
and for the team.
I agree. Well, I think it's just good for Oklahoma City in general. I mean, look, if they let's be honest, if they add that, that's probably gonna be the best arena in the league, in my opinion.
One of, yeah. And
Yeah,
if you have an
one of
entire, I
for
mean,
sure.
some other teams, they have like that where it's like kind of a park dedicated to the
Hmm.
team, but like that for OKC, that would be really nice for us. And after the championship wins, it's exciting. It's exciting to see the state grow as a result of this championship win. It's exciting to see the
Hmm.
program finally really take a leap forward now that
I
they have the
absolutely agree. Well, and
championship
they
win
deserve
for
it.
us.
I mean, let's be honest. I think they deserve it. I think Oklahoma City has been waiting for that championship for years.
Right,
Finally,
especially
they got
OKC
it.
fans, in my
And why
opinion.
not? You know what? Add a little something for them. You know what I'm saying? I
Right,
think, Paycom Center looks great, phenomenal, but a little upgrade wouldn't be too bad at all.
right,
But yeah, do you know if
right.
they're for sure finalized that or not?
I believe it is finalized, and it's the idea is like it is expected to be built and open by like 2029 somewhere in there.
Ooh, yeah,
So
quite a while
yeah,
from now
it's
for
gonna be
sure.
it's gonna be a while, but it is a finalized plan to finally
Hey,
do
at
whatever with
least
it.
me and you will get to see it in our lifetime for sure. So
I mean, yeah, for
that's
sure. That's really exciting.
absolutely. Well, yeah, I'm very excited to see that. That's gonna be really cool. Like I said, I saw some AI generated pictures of them, and
I think it looks phenomenal, especially at
It
night. I think
really
it's gonna look
does.
really good for sure.
Right.
Um, but the only thing we gotta hope and pray for is that we have SGA there, J Dub there. Everybody's still there at that time. But
Right.
let's talk about a little bit about their I can't even say it, contract extensions. I believe Shea had maybe, I think it was $280 million contract
They all
agreement.
got paid well over 150 million over the course of four or
Yeah.
5 years, so or 250 million, excuse me, over the course of around 5 years, I
And
believe.
look, let's
So,
be honest, well deserved. Well deserved. Those guys deserve it
right,
100%.
right,
And
right.
it's good knowing, hey, we'll have those guys for 4 or 5 more years now. So, yeah, that makes me very happy.
Hmm.
And let's talk about what we can kind of look forward to next year for the Thunder. Obviously a lot of guys returning. We lose maybe, I think we lost one player so far, Dylan Jones, or I think his name Dylan Brooks. I was Dylan Brooks or Dylan Jones. Can't remember his name. He was a bench player. I don't think he ever played once. But we lost the guy. I think it was Dylan Brooks is his name. Do you remember? I mean, it goes to
What?
show I don't
Excuse
even
me, I'm
remember.
sorry. What were you mentioning again? What were you trying to?
So we had a guy that got traded from the Thunder. I can't remember his name. It was Dylan, I believe.
Dylan. Gotta
I
look it
can't
up
remember his
again.
last name for some reason. It's not clicking. It just goes to show he's a bench player. I'd never really heard about him that much, but
Dylan Jones,
Dylan
perhaps.
Jones, Dylan Jones,
Dylan
yeah,
Jones. Yeah, that's
yeah.
who it was.
Dylan Brooks is a whole different guy. Dylan Jones, yes. So he gets traded. I don't I remember who he got traded for, but he gets traded, and I think that's it so far from what I know. That's the only person or a player for the Thunder that's gotten traded. But if you kind of want
Right.
to talk about rookies, I kind of want to talk about rookies a
So,
little bit.
so something I would want to mention. You were talking about the future for the Thunder.
Mhm,
Since this championship win and since the run they went on, something I've noticed like a little bit already is like you're seeing teams around the league try to already kind of trying like this could just be me because
mhm,
I'm a Thunder fan. I'm whatever. I'm gonna think pretty highly of them,
mhm,
but I gotta call it like I kind of see it around the league and like the trades that you're kind of seeing of these teams like surrounding their players that already either had decent seasons last year or kind of mediocre where they at least made the
mhm,
playoffs. They had some flashes of stuff, but they got stopped by the Thunder or some other big team. For example, the Clippers. I don't know if
mhm,
you saw I believe it was today or yesterday, they added Chris Paul back again. They have
mhm,
Chris Paul back there now. Obviously, they had that pretty good playoff run. They had that amazing series against, I believe it was the Nuggets, and it was outstanding playoff series.
uh-huh.
That's just what I remember. And uh, it could have gone either way. The Clippers have a bright future with that, and then obviously almost a little over a month ago now, we saw, or close, yeah, about a month ago now, we saw that KD got traded to the Rockets, and the Rockets, I would believe, were second or third in the West, somewhere in there. They
Mhm.
also had an outstanding playoff series in their
Hey,
playoff run. I
not
think
to
it went to
interrupt
seven
you,
games.
but I'm gonna be honest. I think Rockets, they're gonna be way
They
better
should
next
be a
year.
team to reckon with for sure. I mean,
A hundred percent, a hundred
adding
percent.
KD, a healthy KD, a healthy KD is always going to be good for your team. So that'll
Hey,
be exciting
and
for the
honestly,
Rockets.
Rockets are always a sleeper. Like every year, and kind of everybody kind of like, yeah. But
Close to there,
I'm
yeah,
telling you, I think they're
sure.
gonna be really someone to be reckoned with, force to be reckoned with next year for sure.
Hmm.
So yeah, So back to what we're talking about, the future for the Thunder. I'm trying to remember the guy that got drafted. I think he was in the first round, maybe second round. I think it was the first round. I heard a lot of great things about him. I believe I'm trying to remember who he played for. It's been a while since we've talked about it, but look, they've added. Let's be honest, they added some good rookies there, and they made a trade. Um, Starting
Right.
guys
We
returning.
still have all those
Starting,
like
yeah,
picks in
you still have
reserve
all the
too. Like
starting guys returning, backups. And Cason Wallace, Kendrick Williams. Like, you have all those guys still.
you have a deep roster, and you have
Exactly.
people like Kendrick Williams, even that are in the deep part of the roster. They're very experienced players. Kendrick Williams, he's been on our team for a while. He was a starter at one point, I
Uh huh.
believe, actually.
Yeah, he was
When SGA was in fact when SGA was first part of the team, he was starting with them. But
absolutely.
players like that, that's just how you build. Like, and what I was saying earlier with the other teams that I'm starting to see is they're starting to almost build to kind of counter around the Thunder because like
Well, you
this
know,
happens every year though. I mean, to be fair, you know when a
I don't
team
think
wins a
the reason why you're
championship,
not seeing a bunch of trades, obviously, is because if it's not broke, don't fix it. That team won a championship. You haven't lost very many players. You've lost one guy in a
right?
trade. You gained one in a draft. I mean, let's be honest. This
Yeah,
team
right. That's why
is
all those picks are in reserve is because we weren't supposed to be
exactly.
this good this fast. You know, maybe
So
make the
you
playoffs,
still
maybe make
have
a Western Conference Finals, maybe something like that. But make the
yeah.
NBA Finals and win them? No,
Exactly.
no. I don't
Well,
think
yeah,
that was
like I
anyone's
said,
thought.
you still have last year's team, but you're adding a few more players. Honestly, and also, I've been watching Summer League a little bit. These rookies they're looking good. I'm telling you, the Thunder has a bright future ahead of them, and I see it. And I'm not trying to be a little biased. Obviously, I'm biased because I love Thunder, but I really do see. I see a very bright future in the Thunder for sure.
Right, for sure.
So, another news. I think this was just today that I saw it actually. Philip Rivers in the NFL, he retired as a Charger.
Right. And
Let's talk
see,
a little bit about his career, real
yeah,
quick.
previously, I would like to mention this. Previously, for anyone confused, he had, I believe, retired as I want to
A
say a
Colts,
Colt.
Colts. Yep.
I gotta, I gotta
No,
fact
you're
check
right.
that
He
again.
retired
Yep, he
as a.
retired as a Colt,
Mhm.
and so for anyone confused, like some people will be like, "Who the hell, who the hell is Philip Rivers?" Philip Rivers, he was a guy that played for the Chargers
Let me
before
just
they
say this.
had.
Hold on, not to be rude, but if you don't know Phillip Rivers, you're not a true NFL fan. Okay.
Right. I mean, Philip Rivers, he was the guy. He was part of like that generation with like Tom Brady, Drew Brees, Peyton
Hmm.
Manning, those guys. He was part of that generation where he was the top, probably he was at least top 10 in the NFL,
Hmm.
maybe even top five with the other people around him. Like I said, around the days of like Peyton, Tom Brady, Eli Manning, Drew Brees, that type of the
Hmm.
era. And so a lot of people don't talk about him a lot because didn't have a lot of success deep in the playoffs. They made the playoffs a lot. He had a lot of good seasons. He had, to me too, and again, a lot of people just don't talk about him. He had 4,000 every single year that he played. After his fourth season, I believe he had all 4,000-yard passing seasons. That's pretty impressive, and it was all the way into like his mid or late 30s. That is pretty impressive, and the fact that
Absolutely.
like and there was also a lot of people don't know this either. He played an AFC Championship game with a torn ACL.
Yeah.
That takes guts for sure. That
Absolutely.
takes some guts. That has the it factor. But just for anyone that was confused, you're like, who the hell is Philip Rivers? Why does this matter? He helped, even though they didn't really win much with the Chargers. He helped kind of put the Chargers back on a track where they were a relevant franchise. They were able to draft Justin Herbert, obviously down the line, stuff like that. So yeah.
So yeah. So I'm looking at it right here. Let's see here. He played. Hmm, just a second.
He
So
played
he played since 2004.
16 seasons, I believe.
Yes,
Yes.
2004 to 2020 is how long he played for.
Right.
So, man, I'm gonna tell you, I remember watching him growing up, and
Right. Same.
just the
Same.
fire and energy in him. I can't. Also, I remember actually watching the game. I believe he has like, I can't remember how many kids, a bunch of kids, and they put that stat on the TV, and I thought it was
They
the
did.
funniest thing.
They compared Joe Burrow's stats to
Yeah,
or Joe Burrow's kid stats to
yeah, I thought it was a
Philip
little
Rivers. Like
strange, but,
what? But
but it was
you
kind
know,
of
but
funny.
yeah, that's
But
understandable
yeah.
for sure.
No, yeah. So, hey, congratulations to Philip Rivers for sure. He's
Right.
had a phenomenal
Definitely,
career.
definitely nice to see kind of that he wants to go back, kind of like Tom Brady did, where
Hmm.
obviously he retired, quote unquote, as a Buccaneer at
Hmm.
first. Then he went to they had that ceremony in in New England,
Hmm.
and he was able to retire a Patriot. Seeing players do that is it's pretty bittersweet to see for sure, and
Hmm.
it floods you back with like the memories of that, and it's just it's always really cool to see.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I said, just congratulations. I mean, he's had a phenomenal career and everything, and it's a little sad to look back at all these older players, retiring and everything, and just
It is,
remembering
and
their
that
career.
that era, quote unquote, that I mentioned. I believe the only quarterback left from that era is probably Aaron Rodgers. There's probably a few guys, like 2 or 3 guys that are like backups
Mm,
now still in the league, but
I think you're right. I'm trying to
only
remember.
guy that was
Is
like,
Joe
you know,
Flacco still?
always
Is he still playing?
Flacco. He's still in the league. He is on the Browns, actually. They're competing for the spot
Yeah,
right.
that's
He's
right.
competing for
Correct.
the
Correct.
starting job
'Cause
right
remember,
now,
he played.
which,
You know, it was actually interesting. He played last year, and he actually did pretty good coming
yeah, I mean,
off of the couch. I mean,
he did all right a couple
yeah,
years ago, coming off from the
yeah.
Browns, coming off the couch, led them to the
Was it
playoffs.
last year or a couple years ago? I
It
can't
was
remember.
2 years ago. See, last year he
Okay,
played for the Colts, but
that's
yeah,
correct.
2 years ago, I mean, really, he was on the couch. He was like, "Oh yeah, I remember Joe Flacco. He won the Super Bowl with the Ravens, obviously against Colin Kaepernick a couple
Mm-hmm.
years ago." But like, or not, not even a couple years ago. I said that was a while ago, but
Mm-hmm.
either way, everyone said, "Oh yeah, I remember Joe Flacco." And then you hear, "Oh wait, signed up the practice squad," and you're like, "Okay, that's interesting." Then he starts to kind of ball out. Really, the only thing that killed him and then ended up killing in the playoffs, and I said this, is interceptions. I mean, he even struggled
Yeah.
with it kind of a little bit last year with
Well,
interceptions.
I mean, to give him the
He's
benefit of
always
the
kind of struggled
doubt,
with that sort of thing, but
you give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, he came literally off of the couch. You know,
right. I mean,
he
yeah,
just
having
he
to
had a
lead a team
warm
to
up.
the playoffs, that's pretty impressive. They had a
Absolutely.
really crappy quarterback situation already, so he did
Hmm.
good enough to do that for sure.
Well, yeah, big props to him. I kind of want to talk about the Browns quarterback room right now. So you're looking at Shadur Sanders, Dylan Gabriel, Joe Flacco, and there's one other I'm trying to remember. Um,
Kenny Pickett.
Kenny Pickens. That's right. Keith, kind of give me your opinion on it. Who do you think's going to start? I mean, what do you think?
It
I
is
kind of want to hear
honestly
that.
for me, if you take all four of those guys, right?
Mm-hmm.
In my opinion, with Kenny Pickett, you can say whatever people can say whatever they want about him. I think that overall, he is he's unproven, like complete. He's unproven completely. Like he's proven himself. Like he's proven what he can do completely a bit, but like to the extent of starting like a full year healthy behind a somewhat competent coaching staff, which the Browns isn't exactly the best,
Mm-hmm.
what I would say for
Mm-hmm.
that. But I mean, obviously Kevin Stefanski, he's I guess a decent, offensive mindset at times. Obviously, their Browns are more, known for their defensive
Mm-hmm.
production. But look at Kenny Pickett. I mean, he could obviously be the starter. It'd be cool to see if he could, try to kind of revitalize his career.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, you look at Joe Flacco. I mean, obviously he helped lead in the playoffs. He's a veteran guy. He's the guy I would probably him or Kenny Pickett. I would probably say for the front runners.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if Shador, again, say what you want about Shador. My personal opinion on the guy, he realistically probably has the talent to play at that level pretty successfully, but to me, in my opinion, he's very overrated by most analysts and by most journalists in the sports media.
Yeah.
And not only that, but I also feel like he is. I don't know what the term is exactly, but like his dad is. He
Well,
has the mindset of,
here's
oh,
the
my
thing.
dad is good. My dad says I'm good.
Here's the thing.
To me at
I,
least.
I'm not trying to offend anybody, but just because your dad was good does not mean you're going to be great. I'm sorry, but
Right.
look, I'm a fan of Shooter. I think he was pretty decent in college.
He was fair. I mean, the only things you see with him, and again, he said, and like, that's something else I want to mention before I talk about what I want to mention. Something else I want to mention. He would all the time call out his own team, be like, and act like never take responsibility. Really, he'd be like,
Mhm.
"Oh, my O line's trash," or "Oh, we don't really have a running game," or "When we have a running game, it makes things a little hard." When I see that, or when even let's just have
Well,
an
when I
NFL
see
GM,
that, I
right?
see someone that doesn't know how to be a leader.
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly what I was going to get to. Is like I see someone that doesn't want to be a leader and take responsibility, even when it might not be your fault. You just take responsibility and
Mm.
keep moving forward. Don't just say, "Oh, well, the person in front of me or the person this other person was doing this. It's not really my fault."
Absolutely.
That to me, it's like let's say I'm an NFL GM. People wonder, people that said, and I want to say this too. I'll just keep going off topic for what I wanted to say, but people that say, "Oh, he was undrafted because of his skin color." That to me is a really dumb argument if you look at the
Very
facts and
dumb.
if you look at how he acted. Because, like I said, like I was gonna get to, if I put myself in the shoes of an NFL GM, and I see him blaming his O line for stuff, blaming the lack of a run game for stuff, and then also acting on top of that like he's just the best player in the country when he hasn't really. You can look at his stats, say, okay, yeah, had decent stats, put that on the table for sure.
Well,
But
another thing,
you
he
look at
was literally
his
playing with a Heisman winner. Of course,
right.
Hunter made him look a little better.
Yeah, right. That's for sure. And then also too, like you can say, oh yeah, he had good stats, but he didn't win a whole. Actually, I believe he barely had a winning record at Colorado. But like my
100%.
point behind Shedeur Sanders, and I've yapped on about Shedeur at this point, but my point with Shedeur Sanders is that unless he learns how to truly take a leadership role, he's more than likely he's probably not going to be very successful in the NFL. I could be completely wrong about that. The way he behaves could work, maybe even on that specifically on that Browns roster. You know how the Browns are. They
Mhm.
either way they don't have
They haven't had a very
a
good
great
history with quarterbacks, Deshaun
right at
Watson.
all.
If you
Now
know.
the fourth and final guy that I want to look at for consideration that I think was very underrated in the draft, Dylan Gabriel.
Mhm.
Right, so the argument
First of
for
all, I
Dylan
just want to
Gabriel, a lot of
say
people.
I've been a Dylan Gabriel fan for
Right.
quite a while, and I've always loved him. I've always thought one of the biggest thing I've always thought about Dylan Gabriel is I don't think like he's. I think he's a great leader. Okay, I'm gonna say that. I think he's a
Right.
great
I
leader.
will 100% agree with
He's
that.
not.
If we're going off pure leadership on that squad on that
Oh yeah,
quarterback room right now,
100%. He
it's probably Joe Flacco, obviously he's a veteran, or it's Dylan Gabriel, based on his leadership he had in college. And also too, a lot of people don't know about Dylan Gabriel is that he was in college for I believe like close to 6 years, right? Played at UCF, then played at Oklahoma, then played at Oregon.
Mhm.
So he hold on, I gotta look
I
up how many years he played. So
I agree.
obviously
He
he's gonna
played,
be
I believe, for 4 years. And look, here's the thing. Like I said, he's a great leader. Is he the best quarterback? No, he's not. But I see something in him that I don't see in other people. I think
right.
give him time. Just give him time, and he can do something. I'm telling you, I really do
And
say.
see, obviously, some people. So there's a few arguments against him, obviously, which I could totally get. You know, his size, obviously, he's
Mm-hmm.
5'11". You know, he has pretty small hands. You know, all
Mm-hmm.
that stuff. And then obviously another argument for him is that he didn't show up in the big games.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in at UCF obviously didn't really have a chance to show in big games,
Right.
right? Because it's UCF, it's it's UCF, right? You're not going to be in a
Mm-hmm.
bunch of big games, have a ton of huge winning seasons where like, a college football playoff spots in the line or something
Mm-hmm.
like that. At least in that era, because expanded playoff wasn't a thing, obviously.
Right.
OU had a down year 2022. Obviously, they were rebuilding. 2023 at OU, there wasn't a lot of games besides the Texas game, which is the point I'm making it's the point I'm trying to make here, where he did show up in a
Mm-hmm.
very, very big game. You go to 2024, where Oregon obviously had one of the best regular season runs in college football probably ever.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be real here. Realistically, in the regular season,
Mm-hmm.
had a really good regular season run.
Right.
Uh,
Just couldn't finish for
Say
some
what you want
reason.
about their schedule, it was a good run.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so the argument that people make for him, they'll say, "Oh, he didn't show up in the big game against Ohio State, couldn't handle the big dogs."
Mm-hmm.
I think that with that Oregon team, if you get, and this, I haven't really mentioned this ever. I think even really to you, but I think getting a bye in this expanded format for college football can be a disadvantage for some teams because you got to put this into perspective. Oregon won the Big Ten championship in December. I think early to mid December.
Mm-hmm.
So all the way to I believe it was like would that have been mid January probably
Mm-hmm.
where they played the Rose Bowl
Yep.
somewhere in there, or not even mid, maybe the beginning, close to the beginning of January. But either way, that's 2 possibly 3 weeks of no game action off of that Oregon squad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so if you watch that Rose Bowl game, it was clear that obviously Ohio State, they're coming in pissed off. They just missed the Big Ten game. They got shit on by Michigan. I don't care what anyone says. They got shit on that game. They got shit on by Michigan in that game. You got your ass kicked by Michigan. They pissed you off on your field, stuck their flag on your field, whatever. You come in pissed off. They come in firing, all that stuff. And you look at Oregon on both sides of the ball. You look at Oregon, they look sluggish. It's like, man, what's happening with Oregon? And that comes to my point where I think the bye, like I said, can be a disadvantage to teams like that, where you're just rolling and stomping over teams, you're ready to go, and then that momentum kind of slows down because all you're doing is going to practice, and all you're doing is flying around and going to practice is
Mm-hmm.
preparing.
Oh yeah,
Sometimes just preparation isn't enough.
I
Sometimes
100%
you got to
agree.
just carry the momentum you already have through.
So yeah,
So like
well, in my
that,
opinion is look, so obviously we knew Ohio State. They won the championship. They were a great team, obviously.
right? They
But
were
I
a
think you're
sleeper
right.
team.
I think that those bye weeks really killed Oregon for sure. Because like you said, you
Right,
got a pissed off Ohio State team. It's like, I want to beat Oregon. We're gonna win the championship. And you got the
right. And
Oregon
see,
that's like,
the
well,
other
we just
thing,
won
the
the
other
Big Ten championship, so we're gonna kind of just take practice
right.
and.
And so the other thing I was going to mention too that I forgot to is like Oregon and Ohio State played each other earlier that year,
Hmm.
and Oregon won in a game that Ohio State probably should have won.
Hmm.
They were close to field goal range. Will Howard, it's debatable, probably made a pretty bad decision. Probably shouldn't have thrown the ball away.
Hmm.
Tried a long field goal, whatever. You can debate whatever that all you want, but they probably should have won that game. It was a 1 point differential. And so, yeah, Ohio State would obviously they're going to come in there pissed off. Like I said, you got your ass kicked by Michigan, your biggest rival. They plant their flag at your field. They're going to be pissed off. You're going to really show
Hmm.
what you got. And then, like I said, Oregon's a rusty team. So going back to everything that I've said, the argument that people make for Dylan Gabriel, where they say, "Oh, he didn't show up in the big game against the national champion Big Dog Ohio State," that to me, that argument doesn't make a whole lot of sense when you consider the factors that went into that Rose Bowl game.
Yeah. I agree. Well, I'm not trying to make excuses for Oregon or Dylan Gabriel or Oregon, but it is 100% true, though. They were at kind of a disadvantage, believe it or not.
Right.
Even though Oregon was the number one team,
Right.
it was still a little bit of a disadvantage. And
Right.
I look back at that game, Michigan and Ohio State, when they planted that flag. I could tell Ohio State was pissed and they were ready to win the
Right. I
championship.
mean, that's maybe next episode, guys. I mean, maybe we should do like a rivalry game ranking or something. But
Yeah,
because I would really want to talk about rivalry
I,
games. But
I I do too. That would be a
to
very
me,
interesting thing to talk
and
about.
obviously, you and I are both OU fans, so we love the Red River rivalry, obviously. But to me, every time I watch that Michigan Ohio State game, whether they're ranked or not, obviously when they're both ranked opponents, it's a lot
Mhm.
better. But that game, man, it's probably the most
It
entertaining to
gives me
watch.
just as much chills as watching OU and playing
Exactly.
Texas.
And obviously, so we'll talk about that later. But like, so like, yeah, the argument for Dylan Gabriel that we go into where they say, oh, he didn't show up in the big game against the big dog Ohio State. That to me is a dumb argument. So
Hmm.
like going back to who should start on that Browns roster, I would put my chips, realistically speaking, because of the veteran presence there. Joe Flacco probably at least starting week one, seeing how he does. This competition, quote unquote, could carry into the regular season where they're still trying to figure things
Hmm.
out and they end up tanking just a little bit,
Well, and
right?
if I'm just being honest, honestly couldn't really tell you who I think.
Right.
There's not a
It's a
lot
toss up.
of
It really
let's
is.
be honest,
It's a risk.
there's not a lot of talent. I mean, there's talent there, but just not a lot of proven talent yet. Let's be honest, like you said with Kenny Pickens, not a lot of proven stuff there. You got an old guy and Joe Flacco. Yeah, he's still good, but he's older. He's coming up on retirement. It's coming soon. It's just not the same with him. And then you got two rookies. So, it's just you gotta kind of just wait until at least week one or week two. Maybe week one we'll know obviously, but it
Right.
may change mid-season. We don't know. You know what I mean? It
Right.
could
Because, like
literally
I
change.
said, what could happen is obviously on that roster right now, Nick Chubb signed with somebody else, let's make sure. But, Nick Chubb's gone. That roster's going to need, yeah, Nick Chubb with the Texans. But that roster's going to need more weapons than it has right now. And
Hmm.
so what I foresee the Browns doing is possibly carrying this quarterback situation into the regular season and kind of taking just a little bit to get like a receiver or
Mhm.
running back, something like that, where they can kind of get a few weapons, make a few trades maybe during the year,
Yep.
something like that. But it'll be interesting to see for sure
I
what they
agree.
end up doing exactly.
I agree 100%. Well, Keith, I think that's probably going to do it for the second episode of Off the Rails podcast, and probably be about another week or so, and then we'll get another
Close, probably,
episode
yeah.
uploaded. But that was good segment. A lot of good things we covered, and but that again, that'll do it. And so we're gonna go ahead and sign off now. Keith, thank you for joining me, and everybody have a great night, and thank you for listening.